a star that shimmers and burns only light years away from the lessons it learned. But there's a heart on a leaf when it cracks in the cold and it falls at your feet in the amber and gold like a drum playing beats 1,000 years old, and it burst at the seams of the stories it told. But she holds you 'cause she knows you and haven't cried a tear.
So that's a little Brandy Carlisle for you. I mean, that should perk you up a little bit, right? It certainly has perked me up. It's Ask or Tell Me Anything. The number's 888-720-9677. You call right now. You can get on the air. 888-720-WNPR. And speaking of perking you up, when you call, Robin Doyen Aiken, the only extrovert, as far as I know, working in this entire building, will be answering your phone calls. And depending how your day is, I mean, maybe you just feel affirmed by bubbly people all day long, in which case this will make no impression on you whatsoever. But if you're like most of us, feeling like some kind of veal calf in a crate somewhere, having Robin answer the phone and talk to you, it'll cheer you up. It'll actually improve your mood a little bit. So the other thing is, this is what's known as a game time decision. So I've decided, based on an exchange that I had with senior producer Lily Tyson, that I'm going to try out a feature today, but it's totally elective on your part as a caller. And I think we also have to think of a name for it. I don't have a name for it right now. But the thing is, like at the end of the conversation that we have about your topic, you will have the option of discussing whether or not you should have called. Like just from your point of view, whether this was a good thing to have done. We need a name for it or like a code word or something. And I don't know because my only code word is pineapple and it means something else here. So anyway, we'll come to all that. But the main thing you need to know is 888-720-9677. You can call up about anything, too. It doesn't have to be about the current political situation, although a lot of people seem to be calling up about that. But also 888-720-WNPR. That's the other way of thinking about that number. There may be yet other ways of thinking about that number. I have to say one thing. We have a bunch of callers waiting to go, so I apologize. And I have to begin this by saying, and this is going to get me in a certain amount of trouble, probably, and I probably just shouldn't say it. But I'm just not the biggest Terry Gross fan. I've probably learned a lot about interviewing from listening to her, but I just, it's not that I dislike her or anything like that, but my day is okay if I don't hear the Terry Gross Show, which I think has some other name. What's it called? Fresh Air, that's what it's called. My day is pretty much okay if I don't hear the Fresh Air with Terry Gross. And I know that because I usually don't hear it. But on the way into work today, I had it on and she's interviewing Bill Burr. And just the extremity of their two respective positions or two respective affects was so wonderfully, bizarrely stark that I was laughing and I was riveted, and at one point he just describing his father as this kind of rage monster who would come home and scream and yell in a very menacing way at his mother. And then Terry Gross goes, "Did he ever pop off at you?" And Bill Burr laughs for 20 seconds. Then he goes, "What do you think?" Maybe you had to be there. All I know is I'm going to listen to the entire show. I mean, I only heard 5 minutes of it and I was just entranced. All right, so now that I've opened that can of worms, let's go on to some calls here. We will start with David. David's in Wyndham. Hi, David.
Good afternoon. I called last week just about the State of the Union and was saying, the power of booze. And gosh, I was so excited when Al Green stood up and would not sit down, was shaking his cane. And I thought, here we go. This is it. This is the moment for the Democrats. And what did they do? They sat on their hands and watched this old man being dragged off the floor. And I thought, I've never been so disgusted with the Democratic Party in my life.
I think it might be fair to say he was hustled off the floor. I'm not quite sure he was dragged.
Hustled, dragged, however they took him. I just thought, this is like the Germans standing on their doorsteps watching the Jews being taken away. I was so appalled that every Democrat should have stood up and said, "Me next." Al Green did something that no one has, to my knowledge, done before, and that was shut Donald Trump up. And if every Democrat had done that, he wouldn't have been able to have made his speech until midnight, and no one would have seen it.
You have to wonder, though. You have to wonder. I mean, I feel you. I do. But you have to wonder whether that's what people want. I mean, I obviously a lot of people who are very angry at Trump want that. I kind of want that. But on the other hand, if you think about sort of a nation watching what amounts to the State of the Union, I guess it wasn't officially a State of the Union address, but, for all intents and purposes, do they want people just yelling so you can't hear the president, even if you don't even like the president?
I mean, this president, absolutely.
Well,
all he did was lie. He lied for 90 minutes, and they just sat with their stupid little signs and did nothing.
I personally think...
what a coward.
I think, personally, if I were organizing their strategy, I think there was an argument for doing a Chris Murphy and just not going. Like, if there were just a lot of empty seats there. I'm not sure that... I once again, I don't have any polling on this or anything. I'm not exactly sure that would have created a positive response. I think also one of the things the Democratic Party has to do, and this is not exactly on point to what you're saying, but it's related. They have to realize that they have to be something more than a party that hates Donald Trump. They have to have a message beyond that. And even they have to have a message beyond Donald Trump is trying to do this. Donald Trump might hurt Medicaid. Donald Trump might do this. Donald Trump is, suspending somebody's green card illegally for his activities.
They definitely need a strategy. There's no doubt about the fact
I think
they have no strategy, but that was it in action.
I think screaming and yelling in the middle of a State of the Union address when you don't really have your own message, to me, that's maybe not the... I think people want answers. I think they want answers. They want someone to come and talk to them about their own situations. I keep coming back to this Congressman Auchincloss, who was saying to Ezra Klein, start somewhere. What he suggested, and I think it's pretty good, is add up your taxes, your housing costs, and your healthcare costs. If they're more than 50% of your income, something's wrong and we need to do something about it. That kind of message, which is about the people listening, is, I think, more effective than screaming and yelling about Trump or trying to shout him down. The problem is, though, we've got the Trump people are the screamers. They're all screaming USA, USA, and the Democrats are saying nothing. And I feel like the only answer to chaos is chaos. Hand it back to them. If they had shut that down, it would have gone a long way for the Democrats to actually formulate the kind of response that people can hear. The problem is people can't hear what the Democrats are saying because it's reasonable, and that reasonableness gets washed away by the tide, the ocean storm of crapola that comes out of Trump's mouth. Yeah, I don't know. I think we might have to agree to disagree about this one. I would like to see a very effective anti-Trump strategy and a very effective way of responding to the State of the Union address or whatever that speech was, and I agree it was full of lies. However, I think it's fine that Al Green made himself the symbol of opposition and was hustled out of the chamber. I'm not sure the entire Democratic contingent in the House and Senate should have done that as well. I just don't know how that would play with Americans. And I think that party is in the process of figuring out what its message is. And it probably has to be something a little bit more coherent than that. But that's just my thought. All right, we've got a lot of other people calling up who want to get on here. And let's see. Let's go just so we have a slightly different, subject matter. We'll go to Mary in beautiful Kent, Connecticut. Hi, Mary.
Hi. I just wanted to remind everybody that if they can wait to do yard cleanup, especially now that it's turning nice, wait until May, because 80% of the bees get killed when you do yard cleanup. So
really?
It's important. Yeah.
How do they get killed? What kills them?
You're removing the leaf cover and their habitat for them to get started.
Okay. I'm wondering if all lawn cleanup, like, for example, we have, on our yard, and we are sort of the Clampetts of our street. We live on a very nice street, and we look like we just rolled in there with a kind of dirty, flatbed truck and unloaded all of our hillbilly furniture. But we have like a lot of just deadfall from trees. I mean, just enormous numbers of sticks. The bees can't possibly be interested in those. The bees have showed no interest in these sticks.
Yeah, I think that the stick is okay.
The stick's okay. Get the sticks out of there. But it's the leaves that the bees want. All right.
Yeah, it's the cover. And not just the bees, the toads and the frogs. We live in a log cabin up on the side of a mountain.
Yeah.
And so we got lots of leaves.
You do. And lots of bees and lots of toads and lots of frogs. Let me ask you a question. If you start to clear away the leaves, do the bees start yelling and do they have to be escorted off your property?
Well, from what I understand, they just die.
Okay. That's different. Okay. I was just trying to tie the first two calls together a little bit. But anyway, you've been hurt. I want you to feel like you've been hurt. So just think about, before you get your spring cleanup done, and I know that there's a certain amount of peer pressure from your neighbors, as there is in No Mow May or whatever that is. Your neighbors don't necessarily love that you're doing that. And they probably won't love that you wait until May to, clean up all that crap in your yard. But I think Mary has an interesting point. I'd love to know more about it. Maybe we'll investigate. I'll put one of my best people on it. Let me just say that. 888-720-9677. We're just going to kind of alternate back and forth with this kind of stuff. We'll go to Mike from Woodbury next, because he's been waiting a long time. Hi, Mike.
Hi, Colin. So speaking of the Democrats, like your first caller, if there is another presidential election in 2028, and I think that's a big if, in my opinion, the Democrats would be crazy to nominate basically a politician. A governor, a senator, Gavin Newsom, Pete Buttigieg, Josh Shapiro, all the names that have been floating around, because government experience now is a negative. Trump has proven that. They went for it to reelect to elect Biden, but then they immediately got queered on him and went back to Trump. So I think what the Democrats have to do is they have to get a non-politician, a celebrity. And I have a name in mind, which I bet you can guess.
Matt Damon.
He's not who?
I was just blurting out names. Matt Damon.
Oh, okay. No,
Mookie Betts. It's Mookie Betts, isn't it?
He endorsed
Lady Gaga.
Biden. He endorsed Biden in 2020. He did not endorse anybody in 2024 because he doesn't like the whole woke thing, which is good because nobody likes that anymore. This is a guy that has also said.
Is this like I'm supposed to guess this?
Well, you can.
Why did you just tell me? It's the suspense is tearing me apart.
Dwayne Johnson.
Oh, Dwayne. No, come on. See, here's the problem. Here's the problem.
What?
I would tie your call together with the first call that we had. People think that what the country's going to want in 2028 is somebody like Trump. Just as people think that what a good response to the State of the Union address would be to act like Trump and his MAGA people. Whereas I think you have to carve out a different identity. And to your point, as you said, in 2020, ultimately, the people opted for somebody with some real government experience and some air of competence and familiarity with regular order. And my guess is because every 4 years we have a change cycle now. Every elective cycle is a change cycle. I don't think they want just, the Democratic, much taller, far more in shape version of Trump. I think probably if things go as they have been going, people are going to be screaming for somebody who actually knows how to run something. Because we are heading towards being some kind of really third-rate nation where almost none of our systems work very well, and our stock market tanks, and we have Trump session, and we have air traffic controllers, who are overworked and making mistakes, and just up in our national parks will be understaffed and falling apart, and the restrooms will be dirty, and everywhere you look there will be signs that someone doesn't know how to run this place. And I don't think I want Dwayne Johnson at that point. And I don't want Gavin Newsom either, but I want somebody who actually knows how things work. So I don't know, but
I hope you're right.
Yeah, I hope I'm right too.
I'm throwing that out just because it seems like the whole tide has turned.
Yes.
Against
Right.
government experience.
It has, but then that's the thing about tides, though. Then they turn the other way.
Yeah, they turn the other way.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's why they have tide tables. The tide just turned and then it stayed that way. There would be no tide tables. And you know what? We probably don't have tide tables anymore because there's nobody working in the NOAA. Sorry, I'm having a little Lewis Black moment there. But I guarantee you, a year from now, there will not be tide tables because there won't be anybody at the Oceanic Administration who will have any idea how to do one. You'll have to get them on a private, bespoke basis, or maybe you'll go up to some stinky crab shack and go, "Psst, you got any tide tables? I kind of want to know what the tide is." All right, we have to keep moving here, and I'm going to go now to Cheryl. See, I'm alternating. Some things are about the current political situation, some things are not. Here's Cheryl, and she has the floor.
Hi, Colin.
Hi.
I heard you talking in the beginning of the show.
Yeah.
In regards to a word that you would like, that you were thinking about or asking everybody about, and my word is perspective.
Perspective. And tell us a little bit more about perspective.
Well, it seems like everybody's entitled to their own perspective.
Yes.
And I kind of had a laugh when you were talking about Terry Gross's show that you haven't heard the whole thing yet, because I think most of us really, really enjoy her show.
Yes, I know I'm out of step.
On
Yeah.
that.
I mean, I have heard, I just want to say, I have heard entire, episodes of the Fresh Air. I'm very familiar with it. Having worked in public radio for 15 years, it would be kind of hard not to be. It wasn't like I'd never have listened to it. I just realized that most people, and for reasons that I can grasp, revere Terry Gross. And I don't dislike Terry Gross. I'm not casting asparagus at all on Terry Gross. I just, for my own personal taste, she's not my first choice. That's all.
Is that a male view?
Maybe it is. I am a male. I am alleged to be a male. I'm mostly male.
That has been discussed, and when I heard you say that, I thought, that must be.
But for example, I'm a gigantic Meghna Chakrabarty fan, and I believe she is a woman, and I believe that I am a man. So there.
And
my second,
I'm a big Kat Shen fan. I'm a big Kyone Wolf fan. I'm a big Kalila Brown Dean fan. I like all of them a lot, and they are all, I believe, women, and I am 78% sure that I am a man.
I would ask them what their perspective is on the Terry Gross show, too.
You would ask them.
Yes, I would ask you to ask them.
Well, that's different.
I have a second point.
Okay.
Al Green, when he shouted out and lifted his cane, I thought, he didn't get the message, because most of the other Democrats were holding up signs.
Yeah, the little signs they flip around. Well, yeah, you could have like a little mix of things, One
Yeah,
guy yelling, the other people with little round
He
signs.
didn't get the message.
Those little auction
really.
signs, like I'm bid, $800 on
which
Pete
obviously
Hegseth.
was acceptable because they weren't wrote it out.
Right. You can't throw somebody out for having a little round sign. Well,
Right.
this is still America, maybe. All right. So here's
And my third point, was last week I didn't get on the show, and I just wanted to say to the Democrats to all the other than Democrats that voted for Trump, you asked for it.
yes.
And that's all I have to say.
Well, okay, now we're going to do this. I'm giving you an option right now, and we're also going to use your word as the secret word, which will no longer be a secret word. Perceptive is the secret word, right? So
they're not perceptive.
Perspective. See, I think we should pick a word that isn't so easily mangled, but we'll use it for now. Perspective. So when I say perspective, what that means is you now have the option. It's just sort of like we're playing a board game here. You now have the option to do what? To discuss whether or not you feel like this call was worth making. Like, did you get enough out of it? Was it a good idea? If you had to do all over again, would you make the same call?
I would, because it's my perspective.
Okay, that's good.
Thank you, Colin.
All right. Have a good day and happy motoring. And I enjoy your perspective. All right. Let's take a little break here. And I'll just gather myself. And I'm sure we can, turn this show right around, assuming that's what's needed.
A song coming on, and I'm warning ya, it's a victorious, happy and glorious new strain. I feel a song coming on. It's a melody full of the laughter of children out after the rain. You hear a tuneful story bringing through ya love and glory. Hallelujah, and now that my troubles are gone.
That's the wonderful Claire Martin, the British jazz singer. There's sort of a British jazz singer sound, and she's got it. All right, so it's Ask or Tell Me Anything. Number's 888-720-9677. 888-720-WNPR. And you may call up about anything you choose. It doesn't have to be some monumental issue. The fate of America, that kind of thing. It could be a hill of beans or smaller, and no penalty will be applied to you. All right, so one of the areas where we just are very strong as a broadcasting entity, or perhaps a streaming entity, is Lake Como, Ohio. So joining us now is one of our 2 or possibly 4, I don't know, listeners in Lake Como, Ohio. This would be Pam. Hi, Pam.
Hi, how are you doing?
Just fine.
You have a huge fan base in Lake Como, Ohio.
It's a disproportionately large, unexpectedly large fan base. Two. How about your neighbors? Don't your neighbors ever listen?
No, they're Trump fans, and we don't really communicate much with them.
The less said about that, the better, then. That's what I say.
Yes. Well, in keeping with the theme for today, perspective, I have something I want to share that I think your listeners might be interested in. And I even have a theme song to go with it, and that's the Buffalo Springfield, For What It's Worth. There's
something happening here, I know that.
Yeah, and I do work at home, and I watch, I like to have video, television, something going on while I'm typing and working, and if I get involved in something, I don't have time to switch turn it off or forward or change the station or whatever. And I happened to see a feed from a Detroit news station that horrified me, and I haven't seen it covered anywhere else in detail. And this was a raid on a motel, where supposedly there were a bunch of immigrants that had to be collected there. And there were hundreds of people I thought were ICE agents collecting 2 people in a motel. And the reporter, a Cub reporter, was out there doing the interview of the person in charge of the raid. And he was a retired ICE agent who had been hired by somebody to come back and collect volunteers that he deputized to be involved in this raid. And the reporter did an excellent job. He was asking questions about, well, who are these people and how did they get deputized? And the guy was pleased to be on the news, so he dished everything. And it turns out they're hiring former retired ICE agents to collect people from the street who have guns and want to be deputies.
I mean, obviously, the things that could go wrong with this are massive, starting with the fact that these people...
Well, what could possibly go wrong?
Exactly.
But
and these people are not accountable under any conventional system. In other words,
No.
I mean, I don't know that anybody's accountable anymore anyway, but let's assume somebody is. The ways in which you might be able to hold somebody accountable for their behavior, if they're a sworn law enforcement officer, and answerable to freedom of information and a whole bunch of other stuff. These deputies, these unofficial deputy, whatever they are, they wouldn't fall into that category. I'll just say two things. One of them is I would recommend watching last weekend's or last night's or whatever John Oliver show. He has some, as usual, some pretty remarkable reporting that nobody who is in the conventional journalism business is doing quite as well as he is. And he's also, of course, very entertaining about it as well. But I mean, the insane things where these ICE agents pick up somebody who's in the country legally, has legally applied for refugee status, has a court date set to hear his application, has his paperwork with him, and gets picked up anyway. I mean, what gets told from the podium by Caroline Levitt is that everybody who gets arrested is a criminal because they committed the crime of entering the country illegally. But as Oliver points out, a lot of the people who are getting arrested didn't do that at all. They're here legally. They had a temporary status that expired, a temporary visa that expired, or they're seeking refugee status following the proper channels, and they're as likely to get arrested as anybody else. So, I mean, to me, that's appalling. The idea that this person who had all of the appropriate paperwork with him on his person still got arrested and taken to God knows where. I think Oliver pointed out that his spouse couldn't even figure out where he was. And the other thing I'll say that I'm troubled by, I mean, more details are needed, so I don't want to go off half-cocked about this, but another big piece of news today is the student activist who led the protest, the pro-Palestinian protests at Columbia, was arrested and his green card voided, which I think there's probably a procedure they have to go through. I think voiding green cards is really hard and doesn't happen very often. But his green card was voided because of his activism, but no details were provided. I mean, Trump supposedly is saying that anti-Semitism is a basis for losing your immigration status. But, of course, there's a real difference between opposing certain policies of Israel and being actually anti-Semitic. I mean, the idea that with no hearing, no review, no nothing, this guy's green card is voided because of speech that he engaged in, we are in just cloud cuckoo land right now.
And combine that with, we know for a fact Eric Prince has been hired to set up detention centers on a military base in every state. And
that's the Blackwater guy for people who don't know.
So what then? You have an unpopular opinion and you're sent to a gulag.
Well, this is actually the focus of John Oliver's stuff, is the detention of immigrants. That's his focus of that piece. So I would recommend, unless you don't want to get any more upset. Can I ask you about something else? Do you feel like Dave has too many trains?
He does. I mean, and I'd also add that I'm female and I don't care for fresh air either. Okay. So.
I mean, I don't want to make it sound like I'm really down on fresh air. It's not that I'm really down on fresh air. It's just not my first choice. If I have a couple of other choices, I might choose something else. It's like that.
Sure, I listen to it. It's just not my first choice either.
Like, do Dave ever
comment with male, female?
Do you ever talk about the trains with Dave? Like, do there have to be so many?
In fact, we went train shopping yesterday.
Well, that's not helping. You're an enabler. Yeah. You're codependent. You're going train shopping with him. He already has too many trains.
I even buy him trains when he's not there. I call him on the phone. I'm at a train store. Do you like this?
Oh, well, this is a whole different conversation then.
Yeah, I think that's
You're not who I thought you were,
Pam. A theme for a show.
You're not who I thought you were. All right. Well, fine. Maybe the pinball guy, maybe his wife Stephanie really likes having all those pinball machines. Maybe she goes and secretly buys him another pinball machine.
Exactly. Yeah. I also want to say I'm watching you on television. It's great to put a face to the voice.
Don't look at me. I'm hideous. All right. Thanks very much. For your... That's actually the new name of the video version of our show. Is Don't look at me. I am hideous. All right, the maestro is playing some kind of song here. I don't know. Also, a calculator just popped up on my screen. Oh. We're near the end, I think. All right, so the number is 888-720-9677. That's 888-720-WNPR. I'm going to take Catherine because she does not appear to be blocked by the calculator on my screen, but we'll find out about that. Hi, Catherine in New London. What's on your mind? Uh-oh. We could have a little problem here. I can't get Catherine to go onto the screen. All right, you know what we're going to do? We're going to take a little break here. Oh, there. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
I was frightened for a second because there's a calculator on my screen that I never asked for.
I've been holding my phone in my hand since you started.
Oh my God.
Yes, I'm here, my dear.
Okay.
I just am following up because when I spoke to you last week about the separation of church and state, we were unclear as to what a church could do politically. So I researched it, as you suggested. And the IRS, the official IRS site, has a 40-page quick reference guide for those who want to know. And basically, the church itself cannot take a political position, but the pastor, when he's not at the church, can do whatever he wants, so long as any literature that he appears in or pictures or says below it, he or she is not representing the church. So that's how they get around it.
Right. But it does seem as though that if you do it saying it from the pulpit, you're probably violating the spirit and letter.
If you call out a specific candidate, yes, you can preach all about being a good citizen and making sure you vote.
Or I mean, just think about the role that the church played. We might have talked about this last week in the civil rights movement.
Right, exactly.
The Southern
I get it.
Christian Coalition.
What I'm concerned about is the fact that some of these big political campaigns could have great big pictures of these pastors.
Yep.
Nobody's reading the fine print at the bottom saying that the whole church doesn't agree, you know, that sort of thing.
Exactly. I think it's a fair thing. I'm going to give you a big amen about that. Do you want a big amen?
Okay.
I'd like to give you a big amen right now.
You may do that. I'll give you a hallelujah back.
So let's have a perspective conversation now. Do you think this phone call was worth making? I mean, do you feel like if you had it to do all over again, would you have called this radio station today?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, good. It's good. It's good to hear. It's a little experiment we're running right now. And maybe I should say it, that I think that her call was, I like it when people follow up, something comes up the previous week, somebody calls in, that kind of thing. So here's what I think now. By the way, I made the calculator go away. Nobody has to come into the studio and fix the calculator. It went away. I made it go away. I think what we'll do is we'll take a break right now, and I will collect myself. And then we will come back. We'll take more phone calls. We've got Beth. We've got Nathan. We've got Bill. We might even have some other people. We might have Ginny. We've got Kurt Elling.
Building my castle of love, just for two. Though you never knew you were my reason, I've gone much too far for you now to say that I've got to throw my castle away. Over you.
Well, I guess I'm just a sensitive sort, with a mind that often tends to distort what people say, what people done to me, won't keep me tied down anymore. 'Cause I've been out the game for so long, afraid that I might do something wrong. Why do I need to be useful? Your approval as well. I'm gonna try from here to hell. Can you tell? I'm just caught in the middle. Freaking, I'm just a little. Reassure me,
Now. You're listening to Wolfpack Radio. All Wolfpack all the time. And occasionally a little bit of public radio chit-chat. All right, so it's time to say some thank yous. I'm going to thank the wonderful maestro Dylan Reyes, our technical producer, who's the reason we're playing a lot of Wolfpack these days. Also, Lily Tyson, senior producer, is the producer of this episode. Robin Doyen Aiken is there taking calls, assisted by our wonderful intern, Angelica Gajewski. There's a whole bunch of television people from Ops or something. I think Bradley's in there, Joe's in there. I'm really not sure who's in there. Because, in fact, we are streaming the show on the Tube of You. So if you go to the Tube of You and you look for the Connecticut Public account, you can see what you're hearing or something. All right, so here we go. We're going to go back to the phones here. We were going to go back to the phones, except there we go. And let's go to Bill in Meriden, because I like theological questions. Hi, Bill. You're on the air.
Hello. The theology. Okay, not religious, not from a religious family, but my son likes stories. So we hit upon Adam and Eve. And it occurred to both of us that they had no idea they were in paradise. That was their baseline. It was just normal for them. So I'm wondering what the point of the story really was. Just appreciate what you got and don't go for more. Don't go for that brass ring.
It's a really interesting question. I mean, and I don't know if I've exactly heard it phrased that way, but you're right. I mean, they have nothing to compare it to. All of human existence is just the two of them getting anything they want.
I know. Yes. And this is my son right now. He's
right.
He's.
Oh, what happened? Was he just overcome? Are you still there?
Oh yeah, I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Barely. It's almost as if you bit into a forbidden apple halfway through your phone call and God took away 40% of your phone.
Could be.
All right. I'm going to think about that one, Bill. I'm going to think about this one for a while because there's probably somebody else who's undertaken this question. But he's absolutely right. They're in the Garden of Eden. It's the baseline. He says it perfectly. It's the only thing that anybody knows about. And you would think what they would do every day, the two of them, Adam and Eve, would be to get up and say, it doesn't get any better than this, because it doesn't. It literally doesn't get any better than that. And instead, they find a way to make it worse. And it's really their fault that Donald J. Trump is president of the United States right now, if they just minded their own business. And I'm not going to just pin it on Eve because I'm already in trouble with the Terry Gross stuff. It's not her fault. It's not entirely her fault. It's both of them. And, you think a little bit about, I think God, I don't know. The other question is, if God is omnipotent and omnipresent, wouldn't God know that this would happen? I mean, wouldn't he see around the corner there and say, there's a flaw in my design, which is they could mess it up. All right, that's all. Let's go to Rodney. I'm just going to write down the chain here. Also, this is a very interesting question, and I'm not sure I know the answer, but we'll try to get the answer. Hi, Rodney. You're on the air.
How are you?
Good. You're in Farmington, Unionville, in the Unionville section of Farmington.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I was out to dinner with a friend Saturday night, and she suggested, and I didn't take this the wrong way, that therapy might help me.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you talk on occasion that you have a therapist.
I do.
And I was wondering, how do you even go about finding one?
It's a really great question. It's a terrific question. And I have had somewhere in the neighborhood, I've actually literally lost count, It's like Elizabeth Taylor and Husbands or something. I really don't remember how many therapists I've had at this point. I've probably had at least 5 and perhaps more over the course of my 70 years. And in this most recent time, what I did was, and I don't know if you work at a company where they have anything like that, but, there is EAP, employee assistance, and I actually kind of had hit a pretty bad wall. And so I checked out what my options were through EAP. I got referred to this therapist who just turned out, I just got lucky. She just turned out to be exactly the person I needed. And it's so hard too, because if it's not the person you need, you can spend a lot of time figuring that out. And if you're paying anything out of pocket, you wind up paying a fair amount of money figuring out you've got the wrong therapist. So, I think if you don't have EAP, if you don't have asking around to whatever extent you're comfortable with that. Not everybody feels comfortable saying, hey, I need a therapist.
Exactly.
So, although you're calling a radio station, but I would also say, the Stop and Shop that's in Unionville there, the big plaza there.
Yep.
Okay. Just go in there around 9:00 on Saturday night. Just, ask the people who are working there if they know any therapists. They're nice people. I'm often there. Rather late on Saturday night, and there were very nice people there at the Stop and Shop. And you can ask them, but no, I don't know. I mean, it really is the kind of thing where if you're comfortable talking to any of your friends about it.
Well, and so I recently my primary care physician went on to a different path, and so I had to find a new one. It just seems like a really hard thing.
It's so hard. I've gone through the same thing. Here's what happened to me. My primary care physician for decades, my primary physician was Jack. He did not use a last name. It's just his business card would just say Jack, a doctor. So Jack was my primary care physician for decades and decades, and he was so wonderful. And he also was very young looking, so it didn't occur to me that he would retire before I died. It just didn't, the visuals, the optics didn't suggest that.
Exactly.
And then one day he retires, and so I find another primary care physician to go to. Now I'm telling you my problems, which I don't think, Rodney, was your plan when you called up. But I find another primary care physician. This guy leaves the practice, and because of his non-compete, he can't tell me that he's leaving the practice. Like, he saw me for my physical on December 30th. Now, it was in the pipeline for him to leave. He was leaving to, he's going to have to move out of the market for a while and then come back. He was gone by January 24th. So everybody knew he was leaving that day, and nobody would tell me. I found out walking my dog in Elizabeth Park. Like, I don't know how it came up, but this guy, Jim, who was walking with me, with his dog, suddenly we got on the subject of this. He goes, oh, yeah, that guy's leaving. he's probably gone by now. That's who told me. The practice didn't inform me. Jim and his dog told me. And so now I have to find another primary care physician. So if you find...
I thought
it's terrible.
I thought it would be my old friend Tommy, who you walk with. He's
Tom?
That's mine.
I don't even think Tom goes to doctors, because Tom is like he's like Tom Bombadil in Lord of the Rings or something. I think he's, first of all, probably been here for several thousand years, walking around and planting things, and making.
Exactly.
I don't think Tom actually has to go to the doctor.
He was Johnny Appleseed in another life,
or Tom Bombadil. But
possibly.
Yes. Okay. So I think I've been no help whatsoever. But ask Tom. Ask Tom who should, don't do that. Never mind. Don't do that.
I think Tom's advice would be different than what I'm looking for.
Tom's advice would involve some kind of cocktail that has,
Exactly. Tom.
All right. Thanks for your call, Rodney. I'm sorry I was no help whatsoever. We got to get a call or two more here on the air here. So let's go to Beth, who's been waiting perhaps patiently, perhaps not. Hi, Beth.
Hello. Good afternoon, Colin.
Hi.
Hi. I was calling in because daily on various NPR shows, I often hear an expert being interviewed to comment on our current moment. And one of the frequent statements that they make about those who are implementing these policies are that they don't realize what they're doing, or they don't realize the effect that they're having. These experts seem to take at face value sometimes the statements being made by the Trump administration. And I would like to have more of a challenge to these statements. It's just very frustrating to hear this from supposed experts.
Well, I want to make sure I understand what you're saying. So the thing that you're talking about is when when experts are talking about Trump supporters and they say a lot of the Trump supporters.
Yes,
from
or
voters?
the administration, or what they're doing, what their policies are. Yes,
Okay, yeah.
both the supporters and the administration, yes.
And they say that the administration doesn't understand what the effect of its policies will be?
Yes.
Oh, well,
I heard
that's nonsense.
that said earlier today.
Yeah, that's nonsense.
On one of the shows about Social Security, and the columnist was actually from the Washington Post, and she was asked, well, do you think that they realize what effect these are going to have on, people, the cuts there? And she says, well, I just think they don't know what the effect will be on these people. And I've heard that several times.
Well, I mean, in a way, that's its own kind of indictment, right? I mean, if you are monkeying around with Social Security, and I mean, for example, there's Heather Cox Richardson was writing over the weekend about this thing where people who are judged to be getting overpaid, even if it's not their fault that they're getting overpaid, they could have their Social Security just kind of turned off. I mean, if you don't understand the effect that what you're doing on the people who are a part of your kind of service group or the entirety of your service group, and you're doing it anyway, that's an indictment of the official who's doing it. And I think it is sort of true. There are a lot of people running around, and a lot of them are in their 20s, and they work for Elon Musk, and they don't have any training in government, and they don't know anything about it, and they're doing things that are really going to hurt people. And so I think it might be kind of true in its own way, but it also is an indictment of the people doing it. Beth, we have to stop there. We did have one very important comment on YouTube. Someone identifying themselves as Mystic said, who is Colin McEnroe? And, I feel like that's a question I ask myself pretty regularly. And often no answer comes back. It's almost as though I'm standing on a cliff yelling at the sky. Who is Colin McEnroe? Why does he keep doing these radio shows? Why can't he behave himself? All right, so we have to stop there, but thanks to everybody who called up or listened or in any way stood still for what is happening here today on this radio show.
That was never the case. 'Cause look at you now. You don't belong to me or and at the end of the day, I'm too tired to keep on holding your name. And I know that I said it before,